Go ahead. Okay, great. So Empress says, I have a 6-year-old. I'm a single mom who also has to work full-time. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Okay, great. Yes, this is a big thing. I have a 3.5-year-old. I haven't started homeschooling, but I want to start soon. Empress says she's overwhelmed and kind of getting stopped with planning and knowing where to start. I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. We homeschool, but I haven't completely incorporated Waldorf yet, but I really like to. The handicrafts really trip me up since I am not artsy. Oh yes, I have heard that many times. I have an 8, a 6, a 3, and a 2, Emil. Wow. I've started with my oldest, not seeing progress. He has some special needs, so I'm just trying to figure it all out. So a lot of you are just trying to figure everything all out, and that's great, because that's really what we're here today to talk about, the 6 ingredients to create that nourishing homeschool for your child. And I'm going to go through all this. And so keep typing over there. I'll check back. I think I can kind of leave this chat up. And let me go back over here to the slideshow so you can see better. All right. So you're in the right place today if you want to offer a holistic alternative education to your child at home. You might be busy, you don't have tons of time, and you want to make this transition simple, smooth, and pain-free. Like, as I saw many of you guys saying, you have more than one child, some of you are working. So it could be like, I really want to do this, but I just don't have the time to figure it all out. You're in the right place if you want to make sure you are covering all the bases and not leaving your child's education to chance. You're in the right place if you'd like a roadmap or a system to follow. But the reality is it can be overwhelming. Waldorf can seem very overwhelming. There's so many things to learn. There's so many things to kind of figure out. And if you're not artsy or crafty or musical or organized, it can feel like you're really climbing up a mountain. So there are 3 real homeschooling fears that you might be kind of going through or might have been thinking about. The first one is, what if I can't do this, right? Like, oh my gosh, what if I mess up my kids? And what if I can't do this? I don't have the time. Like, I'm so busy. You know, I've got toddlers, one of you said you were working. And how do I make this fit into my already very busy days? What if I mess it up and hinder my child's education? What if my child can't get into college or can't, do what they want to do because something I did when they were 6? These are very valid points. And I totally remember being there. When I started, I was very scared. I felt so unsure. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt overwhelmed. There was so much, it felt like so much information. And how do I juggle all of that with my busy lifestyle and my twins and trying to keep the household running? And I so much really wanted the best for my children. I mean, I started making their own baby food when they were born and having organic everything in the house. I was so determined that I was going to create this amazing childhood and give them the very best. And when I found Waldorf, I knew that this was something I wanted to do, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I found I was spending all my free time researching how to do it. And back then, now we're talking 12 years ago, there really was not much online at all about Waldorf, and the things I could find were very much about teachers and classrooms, and it had nothing to do with homeschooling. So I spent a really long time trying to look through and tons of things, what I could find, perusing sites, and it just felt like I was, instead of doing the things I was supposed to be doing with them, I was distracted and doing all this research, and I didn't know if I could continue to do it. But I decided my girls' education was the most important thing. I really wanted this for them. So I got some training from teachers and experts, and I got help because I realized I didn't want to leave it up to chance. After a while, I realized I had a system, and I tweaked that system and I honed that system, and it became a step-by-step process to really make all of this work smoothly, quickly, and have something that I can enjoy. I was able to start my own business and have time to do live events, create trainings, and even writing a book. Plus, during our school days, we had a lot more time to do fun stuff like sewing, baking, making handmade gifts, painting, and just playing and giving the kids time to do stuff. So we're going to talk today about the 6 ingredients to create a nourishing homeschool without it taking all of your time. And this is the time and energy saving way to really make this work in your busy life. So here's what we're going to talk about and what we're going to go through on the call today. The number one piece that you must have in place so you can design a peaceful, nourishing environment for your family, and it's not what you think. Which toys to keep, which ones to purge, and the best way to keep unwanted flashy things from returning to your home, plus ways to politely tell your family to stop buying them. Oh yes, been there, done that. How to encourage cooperation with chores and practical work around the home. Also, how you can do this with a smile instead of tears. How to bring a Waldorf approach into your life and get your spouse on board and supporting you. And how to discover which arts your child is ready for and how to easily weave them into your homeschool and your life. How to set up your homeschool legally, what to do and what not to do. So we've got a lot to cover here. So this is Michelle, one of my clients who's gone through my programs, and she said, prior to taking Donna's program, I knew very little about Waldorf homeschooling. Now I have the confidence and information to integrate the Waldorf principles into our life. Here is Shelly. Shelly was a mom of a toddler, and she said, I knew I needed help and guidance. After just a few weeks, I felt confident I can give my daughter the tools she needs to blossom. Thanks for the phenomenal course. So I want you to imagine this feeling, a feeling like if you went to bed tonight, knowing you could make this work, having a plan to homeschool with confidence and assurance, and really just feel like you were ready to go. So let's jump on in here and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to kind of go through these ingredients, and I do have a lot. I'm going to try to get through as much as I can, but I could really talk about the stuff all day. But we're going to go through it. I'm going to make sure I'm going to cover everything that I promised, and I'm sure I'm going to give you a lot more here. And then don't forget to hang on, because I'm going to be giving you those 10 must-have supplies. I'm going to give you a link to the PDF so that you can have the 10 must-have supplies, and that's coming up in just a few minutes. Okay, so the very first thing you need to do when you're coming to Waldorf is to really understand it, right? You need to understand the theory and the ideas behind the method. So I call it the unfolding child. And in this, we're talking about understanding, it's understanding Waldorf. I mean, Rudolf Steiner created the whole Waldorf schools and Waldorf approach way back in the early 1900s. And so there were some things that he stands for, and so maybe there's some things that you've heard a little bit here and there about Waldorf that might seem different or strange, or I've heard of some of these things about the 7-year cycles and the bodies and the fourfold and all this, and it can be a little bit confusing, and I don't have time to go through all of that. I'm just going to pick a couple things that we're going to go through. But the first thing is to really understand what this method is all about. Because if you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, it feels wrong to me. That was one thing I wanted to learn right away when I was getting started is, what is this all about? Who was Rudolf Steiner, and why did he create this, and what is it supposed to do? Why is it different from Montessori or different from another type of homeschooling? Like, what does Waldorf stand for and what it's all about? So some of this can get really, what's the word? If you try to read some of Steiner's works, it can get really wordy and confusing. So in my programs, I try to just take the top points and kind of distill it all down so that you'll understand, this is why we do it this way, this is why we do it this way, and I'll go over a couple things here. But basically, the unfolding child is your child's development. Rudolf Steiner created Waldorf to meet your child where they are in their developmental stage. And this is one thing I really loved about Waldorf. And it really doesn't kind of fall into place until you start to get into the grades. I mean, he recommends, and Waldorf kind of has grown into this sort of two different areas. One is the early childhood stage. So we're talking about, children up to the age of about 6.5, where they're preschool, they're not actually in the grades, and then there's stuff recommended for those children. And then when your child starts the first grade, second grade, third grade, and moves up, each year's stories and curriculum matches the developmental stages and age of your child. And it's quite amazing the way it was created, and it fits your child so well. The stories are like medicine for their soul. So it's like fairy tales in the first grade. The fairy tales feed your child. They give your child what they need in that first grade. And each year it progresses on, and it's just amazing the way it works and how it works so well. So understanding all of that, understanding where your child is, let's talk briefly about the 3 7-year cycles, because I think this is something really interesting. And you've probably heard the terms of hands, heart, and head. And if you haven't, well, I'm going to introduce you to that right now. Steiner believed that the childhood was broken up into 3 7-year cycles. So from birth to age 7, that was the first 7-year cycle, and then 7 to 14, and then 14 to 21. So they really weren't considered to be fully grown or whatever till after age 21. And I know most of you have young children in the 0 to 7, so we're going to really kind of slant everything over there. But 0 to 7 is the early childhood phase, and that is the hands. Each of them are connected with those hands. So that's the hands. The second one, 7 to 14, is the heart, and the 14 to 21 is the head. So for hands, this is where your child is really just going through development, and they're growing into their body. They learn through grabbing things, putting things in their mouth. Think about your toddler and your baby, how they learn by testing things, touching things, tasting, climbing, exploring. So it's all about running around and moving through their body. So that's the hands aspect, where you're really learning through hands, through touching, and through all of the senses. Then the child moves into the 7 to 14, and they're in their heart. Their emotions. It's a very emotional time, because believe me, I'm just coming out of the 2nd-year cycle. My children are getting ready to turn 15. I can't believe it. But they're coming out of that, and it was kind of a roller coaster ride. The 7 is beautiful, the earlier years, and they're very into their imagination, imagery, and their heart. Their heart is just open, wide. They're beautiful beings. And then in the 14 to 21, they start to move into their head, where they really start to have the intellect come in and start really thinking for themselves. And I see this in my children as they're moving towards that 15-year mark, and they start to have a little more rational thought. You can talk to them a little bit more like adults, and that's where they're thinking, and that upper intellect and really brain work, and their brain continues to be forming throughout this whole time. So that's all about the child development. I also want to talk briefly about mindful parenting, because when you've got children any age, I think it's really important to come from this mindful place. And Waldorf has a great way of doing things a little bit different, a little bit more mindful. Instead of, your typical punishments and consequences, Waldorf has a great way of doing other things so that you can set up your lifestyle and your children to not have to do so many of those. I'm kind of like it. Maybe that sounds confusing, but really being aware of how setting up your rhythm, setting up boundaries in your life, and like setting up your children to not have to do so much harsh parenting. This is like a mindful, kind of looking at things with love, disciplining with love, listening to your child with empathy, really giving them a chance to be a child, because we expect a lot from our children. But when you study and learn a little bit about these 7-year cycles and a little bit more about their development, we put a lot on our young children, but rational thought does not come or even begin to come into your child's mind until they're 14 years old. So if you're expecting your child to be like, what were you thinking when you did that? That's the way we think as adults. But looking at your 5-year-old or your 7-year-old, they're not thinking about, oh, I shouldn't do this because of the consequences. They sometimes do things and they don't know why they do things. So it changes the perspective by really understanding where a child's coming from, why they do what they do, and really giving them a chance to, they're not going to, you're not going to let them go hog wild and do crazy stuff without any kind of discipline. But I think understanding why they do what they do and helping them stay within boundaries is a great way to parent. And we talk a lot about this in my programs. Waldorf speak, that's my term that I created for, have you ever heard these Waldorf kindergarten and first graders speak? You probably haven't, but if you have, it would just be something amazing. They're very soft spoken. They don't say, I've told you 4 times to come over here, it's time for lunch. They ring a little bell. And so I'm going to give you a tip here. Talk less and do more. So if you are saying, this is the 3rd time I've told you something, or you're raising your voice or whatever, children don't respond to that, but you could whisper like this and suddenly they turn to look at you, right? So it's all about talking less, using little bells. We have this, what I call the dinner bell. It's just one of those triangle, like a musical triangle that you have like a little, stick, a metal stick to ring it. And actually I lost the stick, so I just used like a knife. And I could be calling everyone to dinner and calling them and no one comes. I ring the bell and they come. And it still works, even as I have teenagers now. So there's a whole bunch of this. I wish we had more time to go into it, but I'm just kind of giving you a peek into these 6 ingredients and what it means. Okay, this was the mindful parenting, creating a loving, warm bond. It's more important to create this loving, warm bond with your child and really form this, especially when you start thinking about your child moving into the preteen years. I can tell you from example, you want your child to be open and talk to you, because when they're 5 and 7 and 8 and 10, it's all great. But when they start to move into those preteen years, you want to have a connection with your child that's strong and that will support you guys through these very crazy preteen and teen years. And I know I'm not through the whole thing, and we've already gone through some bumpy times, but one thing I can say is that we have a very open relationship. My girls come to me and tell me things that I'm shocked that they still do, but I'm so thankful that I took the time to create this bond of trust, and that I listen to them so that they'll come to me and I can help them through these bumpy times. Okay, let's move on to the second ingredient, and that is environment. So this is basically everything where your child's going to be, right? So I included simplifying your home, toys, and play. So simplifying your home is a great way, and many of you probably already do this, but sometimes we have so much clutter and we have so many things around. It's nice to clean things out and have a home that's has space and some energy for your child to play and for you to live, and not have like rooms cluttered up with, one of those catch-all rooms where you shove everything, or your child's room where you can barely open the door because there's clothes and toys and books scattered everywhere. It's very hard for your child to feel comfortable and play in an environment where there's so much stuff and there's so much coming at them. These children, especially that 0 to 7 age range, are very sensitive. They're very sensitive to everything that comes in. And I'm sure you've heard this before, that before age 7, children can't filter things. They can't say, oh, if they start hearing some crazy stuff on the news, or they hear you talking about a very adult type topic, it's hard for them. And so, you may have some issues from things that you're working through that you heard when you were young, or a situation that happened, because you can't filter it out. So we want to protect our children as much as possible from those things in these early years. So simplifying their home, having it nice and warm, soft lighting, soft music, not a lot of loud banging, bashing, constant noise, television blaring, stereo blaring, loud talking. I mean, if your family's loud, we are definitely a loud family. We talk and laugh and everything, but then there's many times where it's just quiet in the house. I never had like TV running or music playing all day. It was just quiet. and I would do some work and my children would be playing, and I would hear the noises of them playing and their laughter or whatever. So there's a whole thing behind us, really simplifying. But one tip I could give you here to get started is to, clean up your child's room. I did this and it was amazing. I went in my kids' room when I was simplifying our home, and I went room by room and did every room, but we started with the kids' room. And I thought I was already really good at paring things down and an organized person. I don't have a lot of junk around, but I looked in their room and I thought, I wonder why they never take all these books, take some books off the shelf. And then I looked and there was like 3 shelves filled with books. So this is before they could read, but even just taking picture books. And I opened their closet, and, they each had like 20 shirts, 30 pairs of pants. It was crazy. So I pared everything down. We have our favorite clothes that we wear, and they have their favorite clothes. So I pared it down. And that way it was easy to pick, the red shirt, the blue shirt, or the green shirt, that kind of a thing. I pared it down to their 10 favorite books, and I set a little beanbag chair in their room with a little area rug. And suddenly they were in there. It was clean. It was feeling it was open, and they started like pulling books off the shelf and reading them or looking through them and really playing in their room where they hadn't before. So let's touch on toys, because this is one of the things that I have to talk to you about, and that is which toys to keep and which to purge. So obviously we're going for natural, handmade, real natural toys. So we're talking about wooden toys, silk toys, anything that's, hand sewn, and really trying to stay as much away from the plastic, sharp, pointy, edged toys. We're looking for more open-ended toys, and they don't even have to be, when I say toys, they don't necessarily have to be toys. In fact, I remember my mom coming over when my kids were, pretty young. I'm probably 5 or something. And I remember her coming into the living room and looking around, and she's like, your kids don't have any toys. She was ready to go down to Walmart and buy some toys. And I said, they have plenty of toys. She's looking in our bins, and I had everything organized in little baskets. And there was a basket of tree blocks that my husband literally went into the backyard and cut for free out of a nice fallen log. Those tree blocks I still have. They don't play with them anymore, but they are in perfect condition after 10 years of hard use. Nuts, acorns, walnuts, shells, sticks, any little things like that. This is what my kids played with. They were very open-ended. They could be food for the animals. They could be money. They could be stepping stones. It could be anything. So those are the type of things I'm talking about. Some play silks. That had a basket of play silks, which we still have. They would take those play silks and they would become things to wear, things to wrap around their horses, scenes on floors, like the water if it was a blue silk, or ground if it was a brown silk. So those kind of things. Tinker toys is one thing that they did have that they used, and they were fantastic. But they were the wooden ones, not the plastic ones. There were a few little plastic pieces, but most of them were wooden. And they were very open-ended, and my kids used the heck out of Tinker toys. So I can recommend those as an excellent toy. Anything that looks scary, they had a couple scary dragons that they did play with once in a while, but I tried to stash them away. So anything that looks harsh, and you know what I'm saying here. Most of the Waldorf toys are very smooth, rounded edges. The faces are very simple. There's not a ton of detail on most of it. It's very open-ended. So, this horse could be this or that. They're very, they're great to hold. If you can take a plastic toy in your hand and then take a wooden toy, like one of the little wooden animals or something from the Waldorf style toys, and hold them, you'll see the difference. I saw this in my knitting. When I had first started to learn to knit, I had a plastic needle, or maybe it was a metal needle, and then someone showed me that they had wooden needles, and actually I think they're bamboo. And once I had the bamboo and the wooden needles, I was like, oh my gosh, these feel amazing in my hand. So I thought, if it feels good for me to knit it too, how great does it feel for my kids to play with? So I would say purge anything that's broken or that's really, we had a few flashy toys that I had gotten before I had even discovered Waldorf with batteries, and they played music and flashing and everything. So, try to kind of put those, stash them away, and hopefully your child will forget about them. There's a whole thing on trying to kind of rotate. Sometimes you have to rotate the toys, and if they are gifts or something from a grandmother, you may have to put them in a box. And I try to stash them and have them out of sight, out of mind. But if they asked for them, then I would bring them out for a short time, and then I would put them away. Because my mom would still insist on getting them like Barbie computers and Barbie dolls and things like that. And I would just let them play with them for a few days, and then I would tuck them away and they would forget about them. So I think the best way to stop the unwanteds coming in is just to be upfront. And this is what I did with my family. Even though I had to continue to keep doing it, just tell them what you're trying to do. Just tell them you're trying to bring only natural, open-ended toys. You don't want anything with batteries or electronics, if possible. Now it's even harder. I mean, when my kids were younger, there was no such thing as iPads and iPhones. So I know it's even harder these days to get around that. But the younger the child, the more I would recommend enforcing this. So the younger the child, the more open-ended, soft, yummy, natural playthings. And then as they get a little bit older, you can start introducing some things if they haven't already been introduced. Just politely tell them that this is what you're doing. And what I found to be really helpful is to go to one of the websites. I think Bella Luna Toys has it. What's the other one? I'll think of it. They have they have registries. So go online and register for some toys and things you want, because that was my biggest problem I had with my mom. I don't know what to buy your kids. I can't just go to Walmart or Toys R Us and get something. So I gave her some websites, and I said, go to these websites and just pick something, and it'll be shipped directly to our house. You don't have to worry about going out, and then I'll get what I want. It'll be easy for you. So a lot of those have gift registries. You can just register for all the things you want, and then each holiday, send the link to your family if they need some ideas and want to buy something, or even you. I did this for my own, what I want, kind of as a, your wish list, and then you can purchase. So I hope that helps that. Another thing I want to talk about is, of course, play is a big part of your child's day, is to have that indoor and outdoor play set up so that they can play. That's really your job. Your child's job in these early years is to learn through playing. So playing is a big part, but there's also a piece of playing that I want to talk about, and that is the practical work. So you've probably heard about this, where your child is really coming in to help you. So instead of you going, okay, stay over here and play right now, I have to go do the laundry, you invite your child to come with you. And these kids at this age want to help. And I promise you, when your kids get to be teenagers, as helpful as they were in the early years, they don't want to help you anymore. So take advantage of it now. And I know it's easier said than done. I know it takes a lot longer when you do have them come help you, but it really pays off. My kids learned they were making their beds somewhat, and I say making their beds in quotations, pulling up their covers when they were 3. And they were getting themselves dressed, and they were, helping around the house, learning to fold laundry. They want to help. And I know it'll take a little bit longer, but it's very important that they feel like they're part of something, and they're part of the family unit. They're part of helping around the house. And so if you just, maybe even get them a small broom if you want. You don't have to. I don't think I ever got like little brooms or I think we had a little dustpan and broom that they would help. But you can give them just a dust rag and ask them to go around and dust, or help them water the plants, help them plant plants in the garden. My kids learned how to do, I'm a very avid gardener, and my kids learned to garden very young, and they're very helpful and they're very good at it. They learn pretty fast. So this practical work, this is how you encourage it. You bring them along with you, and the kids will want to do it instead of, you forcing them to do chores. It's just like working with you, and they'll want to help you. So that's they're imitating you, and that practical work is part of their play. They love it. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to be standing with you the whole day doing all your work, because they're not. They'll stay with you for a few minutes and then they'll run back and go play, and that's fine. But you want them to help. You want them to be involved if they want, and encourage them. Here's, a few towels that they can fold, or here's, the napkins to put on the table. Or wash a few vegetables. Here, come stand beside me while I'm cooking, and you can wash these vegetables in this tub in the sink. There's a lot of things, and instead of you trying to figure out what am I going to do with the kids while I bake and cook, bring them on in if you can, and have them help you in a small way. That's not going to, obviously make sure they're not going to be burned or cut or something, but, and you're right there, but give them little jobs to help them become part of feeling like they're wanted and needed, and you're giving them amazing skills. My children can do so many things. They know how to do everything around the house: bake, cook, clean, sew, all the handwork and everything. So it's important. Okay, great. I got to keep going here. I'm never going to get through this. Okay, number 3 ingredient is rhythm, and I am such a big advocate of rhythm. So if you're unfamiliar with this term, it's really the scheduling of your days and weeks. This is a sort of a Waldorf term. It's, usually you might think rhythm is like a musical term, but in Waldorf, rhythm means the, how your days flow. It's not like scheduling out in a calendar, but it's the flow of your days. And we'll talk briefly about the in and out breath. And that, just think of a tide. It comes in and it goes out, and it comes in and it goes out. And that is the type of flow that you're looking for throughout the day. So there are certain activities that you do with your children that are an in-breath activity, and certain that are an out-breath. So running and playing outside is a very out-breath, right? Coming and listen to a story is an in-breath. So you want to have a flow. If you have a ton of out-breath activities, and I'm sure you've experienced this with your child, where they're like going, and then they get like crazy and they can't come down out of it, like they're so wound up. It's that they've had too much out breath. And then you've also experienced it where they've been sitting for a long time, maybe in a car or something, and they are just wiggles and they can't sit still and they're about to go crazy and explode. That's too much in-breath. So you want to have your day set up where this is in-breath, out-breath, kind of a balance of what's going on. And it's very important to get your ideal day set up. I have a lot of programs to set up your rhythm, because I think it is really the number one thing that you need to put in place to create this peaceful, nourishing environment. And before you even start homeschooling your lessons, you need a good rhythm to your days, because if you don't have that and then you want to add in homeschooling too, it can be too chaotic. If you have every day is different, if every day the schedule varies, if every night your child is going to bed at a different time and there's no set morning routine and you're just flying by the seat of your pants, it's very hard on your child. Children thrive on consistency. They want to know what's coming next. It helps them settle into the world and feel like there's some type of security. And not only that, for you, it's amazing when you have a nice rhythm set up, because you don't have to think, oh my gosh, what's next? And what am I going to do over here? And what's the meal going to be? And oh my gosh, the kids aren't in bed yet and it's 9 o'clock. It becomes like an autopilot. I mean, it's sort of a set it and forget it once you get things going. And it takes all of that off you. You don't have to have this crazy, oh my gosh, feeling like you're trying to play catch up. You'll have the rhythm going, and then all you have to do is go, oh, we have a little pocket of time this afternoon. Let's go paint, or let's go to the park, or let's go to the beach. So it takes away all of that craziness and really frees your mind up to be present with your child and to do the fun things, instead of you just feeling like I have to figure out what's going next. Once that's all done, you've created your ideal day, you've created the pillars of the day, it really frees you up. It's the best. It's like the best thing. It's the first thing I teach when I'm teaching people, other than understanding, what Waldorf is about. Then getting the rhythm in place is the very first thing I work with when I work with clients and in my programs. It's very important. I believe it's one of the most important things, and it's amazing to have your daily rhythm and your weekly rhythm set up. Now, it doesn't mean that every day is going to be exactly the same and nothing's ever going to go wrong. But if you have a nice strong rhythm, it's a lot easier to get back on track, and you don't have to be so scheduled and rigid. It actually frees you from that. And I'm not a real, hey, I have to do everything by the clock kind of a thing, because you don't want that. You want it to be flowing. And when you have this flowing rhythm, in and out breath, it feels so nourishing and so relaxing. Even if you've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and you're not really officially schooling, you still need this rhythm. And I had a really great rhythm going, and when it was time to actually start doing our first grade, it was seamless. We just added main lesson in, and I thought, wow, I was afraid everything was going to change and now we have to do school, but it worked out great because I had an awesome rhythm in place. We just added one little piece to it, and we just kept going. It was like, oh, this is just like what we've always, already been doing, only we do a little bit of more over here. So it was really, really nice to have that rhythm. And so I highly recommend getting that rhythm in place. All right, we're going to stop just for a second. And what time should a child under 7 go to bed? Just wonder what your thoughts are over here. And I'm going to pop over to the chat. What time should your child go to bed? I'm going to pop over here. So let me pull up the chat. 7 p.m. someone said. Okay, great. 7, we are early bed folks. Great. Okay, yes, definitely. I'd say 7, 7:30. We try to stick to 7:30. Okay, excellent. 7 to 8, good. If your child is going to bed at 8 and 9 and 10 o'clock, I mean, they're probably still sleeping in the morning till 8, 9, and 10 o'clock. Usually that's the way it goes. But it doesn't give you any time as an adult to have that evening. I remember going, oh my gosh, it's almost 7 o'clock. It's almost 7 o'clock. Just hang on for another 30 minutes, right? And then we would have story and they would be lights out by 7:30. So you've got time to be yourself and regenerate yourself. And we're going to talk about that in one of the upcoming ingredients here. But it's really important to have a pretty strict bedtime. Like, I don't care if it's 7 o'clock or 7:30, but stick to that. Like, I was such a stickler for bedtime. My kids slept great. We never had issues with it. And even if we were out of town or something, or we had to go out to dinner, I'm like, well, we're going to have to go out to dinner early because we have to get them home and be in bed at 7:30. And my husband would be like, okay. But it worked. And then I had the evenings free because I needed that time, especially when you've got several young children. You as a mom need that time to recover and kind of go, okay, I can just be Donna for a little while, or I can be myself for a while, or I can connect with my spouse if you're married, or I can read a magazine, or I can watch Netflix, or I could do whatever I want to do, have some wine and sit on the back porch that is not involving, children. You need a little bit of a break. So I highly recommend that, having that in place. All right, let's pop back over here to the slideshow. Okay, let's move into ingredient number 4, which I know some of you expressed at the beginning was sort of a challenge for you, and that is the arts or creative expression. So we're going to talk about age-appropriate arts here, and it's hard because I can't talk to each person individually, but I'm just going to give you sort of an age range of what your child can do and what can't do, what they might be a little bit young doing. Probably a lot of you were very drawn into Waldorf because of the arts, right? The beautiful paintings and the drawings, and the singing and the movement, the music, and all of that is really important. And it's like, okay, this is great. And because that's what kids are not getting those, right? Out in the regular schools, that's the first thing to go is the arts programs, and you want to have this. So it's really important. And there are so many studies out there you can easily Google this, about how the arts help in later upper academics and math and science and reading and all of that, how music creates connections in the brain. I'm sure you guys have heard of that whole Mozart theory and all of that. But it is true. Music and movement is a way of your child's expressing themselves, learning of the goodness in the world, and just, kids love. I know the younger kids, you guys have them. They don't feel shy about dancing or singing. They just do it because it feels good, because they love it. And so we want to get into that. We want to give them more opportunities to have that. And Waldorf is really based on storytelling and the arts. I mean, these are the vehicles through which Waldorf comes to your child. You know, there's no textbooks and workbooks and that kind of a thing. It's all done through stories, through paintings and drawing and singing and movement music and all of these things. That is how you deliver, if you will, the Waldorf method, is through the arts. So it is important that you know a little bit. Now, you don't have to be, you know, a super singer or Van Gogh or something in order to do it. Here's a piece of advice that I want to give you. As you only have to be one step ahead of your child. So if you have a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old or whatever age, you only have to be one step ahead of where they are with it. So take a deep breath with that and think about what I'm saying. Okay, even with the handwork and all of that, you only have to know a tiny bit more. And this came into play with me when I was doing handwork. I grew up, my grandmother did show me how to crochet. So I did have that, but I had never learned to knit. I didn't know how to do it. And I'm like, ugh, it kept getting closer to the time to first grade when I knew I had to, you know, teach my kids to knit. So I said, I'm going to have to go learn. And it was a little bit of a challenge for me, I will say. Now I love it, but it took a while. And I thought, oh my gosh. But then I thought, well, I know more than they know. And so I can teach them the basics. They actually far exceed me and learned, you know, quickly and bypassed me when it came to knitting. But you only have to be one step ahead. So let's look at some ages. So I think, you know, under the age of 2, you know, a lot of these things you're going to have to wait. Singing and movement. Let me go back here. Singing, movement, and storytelling, and, you know, some basic drawing or whatever, can be any age, right? I mean, singing, we start singing to our kids when they're young and they can sing. So singing can be brought into any day while you're doing circle time. If you're doing circle, that's a perfect, you know, way to do singing. While you're cooking breakfast and your kids are there with you, you could be singing some songs. While you're driving in a car, you could sing. While you're walking outside or in the, you know, doing chores. I know there's a great CD collection, and I highly recommend these. We had them called Naturally You Can Sing. If you go to the Naturally You Can Sing website, they have some great CDs there. Now, you need to learn them and sing them to your child. I played the CDs some, but mostly I would learn the song, and then I would sing them without the music. You can do both. But Waldorf recommends singing from you instead of singing from CDs, because the music is condensed. It's compacted down. That's what a CD is, right? It's a compact disc. And it's not the same as live music. And kids love to hear you sing. And I don't care if you sound terrible or you think you don't, you know, you're no good. Kids are not judging you. They just love that you're having a good time. They're not sitting there going, oh my gosh, my mom sounds like a cow stuck in the mud. They just love that you're laughing and having a good time, and they'll jump right in with you. So sing, sing, sing. That can be done at any age. Movement is the same thing, you know, dancing and doing finger plays and running around and doing little games, all of that, dancing and moving and pretending to be a tree and all of those. You know, it's sort of the same as the singing. Anybody can do it at any age, so your child can start doing that. And some of these crafts can even start to come in at a young age if you're helping, you know, doing, you know, depending if there's a lot of cutting, and, you know, some crafts you can easily do with the younger ones. Now, handwork, I think, you know, as you get closer to age 5, your child can start like wrapping yarn. Like, that's one thing. If you buy a skein of yarn that's not rolled, or you don't have it rolled tight into a ball, they can wrap. My kids used to get out the Tinker Toys and tie yarn to them and pretend that they were knitting. They can start finger knitting around age 5. So you can check YouTube. There are videos out there on how to finger knit. So you can start the finger knitting. They can wet felt at that age, 3 to 5, and of course up. And of course, painting with with one color. They can, you know, depending on how your child, you know, will hold the brush and how long they'll stay with you, all those things can get started. Some of the things that you might see later on, like these beautiful paintings and things, it's going to be a little bit older child before they're doing a lot of those drawings and chalkboard drawings for you. And some of those paintings, you know, we're talking about a child that's more like 7, 8, and 9. and really getting into knitting. And knitting doesn't start till age 7 in the first grade, and then second grade is crocheting, and then they do weaving and moving up in there. So you've got to be a little patient with some of this. Playing a blowing instrument, there's a picture of us doing the recorders, starts in first grade. My kids had some little things before, but I didn't do any official lessons until we were in first grade. So you can bring in a lot of these things already into your home, and then start preparing yourself, like I did, to learn how to do some of these things, like the needle felting, the wet felting, and the handwork as you go. So maybe you can tell me which arts you're really excited about and what you can't wait to get started with. You can also tell me which arts are kind of challenging for you, which arts are like, oh my gosh, I can't paint to save my life, and I have no idea how to do that wet on pitting. But let me tell you, if a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old can learn it, you as an adult can learn it. It's not hard. You just need to know the techniques to do it. And again, you only need to be one step ahead of where your child is. So, okay, we talked about this. Which art is your child ready, and how to weave them into the days. Okay, let's move on. Setting up your homeschool, number 5. So this is a lot here. This is like going through the legal requirements of, your state or wherever you are located, your country, because every state in the United States is different. And I know every country has different laws. So you have to be responsible for finding out what your laws are, because what my laws are here are different from where you are. So you have to find that out. You can check with a local support homeschool co-op and ask some people. Some of the other things for setting up your homeschool is, what materials and supplies you're going to need. And again, I'm going to be giving you that link shortly here for the top 10 must-have supplies, choosing a curriculum, and then planning and presenting your lesson. So let's talk about legal requirements for just a minute here. How to homeschool legally. A really nice website is the hslda.org, and that's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association or something like that. There you can choose by state and look, and I know there's one for international. With if you go to the international, there's also one for that, so you can start looking right now or find out, because a lot of times, like what I found out in South Carolina, is that I don't officially have to start homeschooling until my kids were 7. So I was like, oh, well, I've got a couple years. I don't have to worry about any type of legal, whatever I have to do, and tracking anything or whatever. It kind of took me off the hook. And I think a lot of states, it's the same. So check to see what you can do, what you can't do. Some states require, homeschooling 5 days a week. Some just say it has to be 180 days. Really look to see, because some states are very strict. I want to say New York and Pennsylvania are a little more strict. And then like South Carolina, it's really nothing. You don't have to do a whole lot of, they don't really, there's not a whole lot of restrictions. So it's really important to find out before you start moving into planning and getting into the grades, what your locality's rules are, so that you make sure that you're abiding by them and you're not going to get in trouble or whatever for that. So, let's go back here just for a second, and that is, so materials and supplies, that's like all of, what do I need to have? Like main lesson books, crayons, like what do I need to have? And then curriculum, do I need a curriculum for, the preschool, kindergarten age? I do like to have some kind of something to follow. I don't consider it to be a real curriculum. There's no academics, but it's more of a seasonal curriculum. And I have the School for All Seasons that it's just a kind of organizing everything into a circle and into weekly themed lessons so that you can follow it if you want to. And there's something to do with your 5-year-old and your 4-year-old and your 6-year-old, so that you're not like, what do we do all day? It gives you something to follow. And then planning, because you have to figure out, okay, how long is this going to take? How do I present these lessons to my child? How do I tell these stories? How do I do the paintings? And how do I do the chalkboard drawings? And how do I set everything up? So that's the setting up your homeschool. But the very first thing, and probably what most of you guys need to do, is to look at the legal requirements. So that's why we covered that. All right, let's go on to the last ingredient, and then I can kind of go over there and tell you about a resource that I'm going to tell you about, and then we're going to do questions and answers. So the very last, and I don't mean it as far as last, but the very last one we're going to talk about is inner work and self-care for moms. This is really an important important thing to have in place, because you are with your kids 24/7 for the most part, and now you're homeschooling, and you can get really tired. And if you're not taking care of yourself, and you guys already know this, I'm sure, if you're not taking care of yourself and recharging yourself, then and you're exhausted, you're not going to be a very effective homeschool teacher. So you've got to get some help. You've got to have some grounding for yourselves, maybe do some meditation, and set some boundaries for yourself, because we're so quick to say yes to everything. We want to help everything. We want to help everyone because we're moms and we're women. And we say, yes, 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 we'll do this, we'll do this. And then we end up, spreading ourselves too thin with all the things we have to do. And we become resentful, and we realize we can't do everything, and we just kind of want to break down. So it's really important for us to have things for ourselves. And that's what I was saying, like that bedtime is really important. So one of the best ways to recharge yourself is to find something that you love. So think back before kids, when you were a teen, or whenever it was before kids came along, or maybe you just have a hobby that you really love right now. So for me, it was like gardening. I love gardening. I'm a master gardener. I did organic garden design. This is before the kids came along. So I love it. And when I get outside and I start getting in the garden, I could spend hours out there. So that's the type of thing where you kind of lose yourself. So maybe it's yoga, maybe it's painting, I don't know, whatever it could be for you. It could be just reading or taking a hot bath. I know the younger children, the harder this is going to be to set things aside for yourself, but it's really important that you have these things in place. I remember going through a stage, my kids were pretty young. They were probably about 3, and having 3-year-old twins is really hard. And I remember when my husband would come home, I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to get out. Like I needed a break. And I would go to the grocery store by myself and just walk around up and down the aisles without being distracted. I could think, I could plan meals without just getting a whole bunch of stuff that didn't make any kind of a meal. And nobody was throwing stuff in the cart or crying and all of that. So I was like, I just needed some time. So I suggest putting something into your schedule once a week. Can you have coffee with friends? Can you have a date night with your husband or your boyfriend? Can you get, something to do for yourself? Because just like they tell you on the plane, if you don't give that oxygen to yourself, you won't be able to help others. And it's the same thing. We run out of gas. We go, 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 go. We try to help everyone. We try to do everything. And then eventually the car's going to break down and you are going to break down. So you really want to have some things in place. So the first thing I could say is find a hobby or something that you love and try to pencil it in once a week, once a day, depending on what it is. Like it could be just a 10-minute yoga routine that you do in the mornings, getting up early in the morning and doing your yoga routine. Or it could be the once a week going out with friends and having coffee. Something to put into your routine to recharge yourself. You will become a better mom, a better spouse, a better parent. And it seems counterintuitive, but it happens every time I would take a little trip or go away for a little while and come back. I was much better because I feel like I've gotten myself taken care of. I'm not feeling resentful that I never have any time for myself. And I hope it doesn't sound selfish because that's not the way I'm trying to come across, but you do need to take care of yourself. You matter, and you are one of the ones that you have to take care of with all the rest of your family. You have to put yourself in there. And so if you're not doing anything and you come last every time, that can't be sustained. And that'll start coming out, in your personality, and you'll be snipping and you'll be mad. And I really want you to get this. So there's a whole lot more that goes along with this inner work, but I just want to give you that piece before we move along. So Here's Catherine. This is one of my clients, and she said, for my first year of the grades, it was very helpful for me to have a mentor to help me see the flow of the process. I appreciated the push to help me see how to go about planning in an organized and proficient way. So that's just someone who had gone through my programs and I worked with who was going through the first grade. So I'm not sure what you showed up today to learn or why you showed up. Maybe you were tired of feeling overwhelmed. I know a lot of you at the beginning said you were feeling overwhelmed and you really want a map to follow instead of leaving it up to chance. You want to know that your bases are covered and that you're doing it correctly so your child will learn and thrive and really be nourished through this holistic type of education and really, kind of be encased in this Waldorf world where they can have the best of what they need for their childhood. If you'd rather spend time with your child doing fun stuff, playing and enjoying your time rather than researching and trying to figure it out, like it's hard enough to do this. It's not an easy thing. I mean, it's a lot easier to use a different kind of homeschool where you just have your child sign up online and today's lessons is right here. You don't have to do a lot. This Waldorf approach is very mom-centric, and it is a lot. You are the teacher and you are the one that they're going to be learning through. So hats off to you for doing it. But if you have to try to figure it out and then do it, it's a lot. So if you value a solid plan and training and realize to be the most effective, you're going to need some guidance on how to do it. You don't have to have it, but it's going to take a lot longer, and it's going to be a lot harder if you don't. So it's time for you to step into your role as homeschool teacher with confidence, assurance, and excitement, like a joy. Like, I can't wait. I had this feeling every morning, like I couldn't wait to go and start homeschooling because it was so much fun. My girls were having so much fun doing it, and they were learning so much. It was just like the best years of my life with them. It was just amazing. It's your chance to do this for your child now. I know you can do it. You only need a plan and a little help to get started. If I can do it, and I didn't even have a plan until I kind of figured it all out, you can do it. So I want to introduce a resource that I am so excited about, and this is sort of another program that I had. I've revamped and I keep making it better and changing it to make it really, really spectacular. And this is the Waldorf Homeschool University. It's a 12-month training and support program designed to give you everything that you need to know to get started and have a successful Waldorf homeschool. The link for more information, I'll go ahead and give that to you, is the waldorfconnection.com/university. And I'm really excited about this because I keep making it better and better. I keep tweaking it, and this is the enrollment that we're going to be doing for this part of 2018. So let me just go through quickly what's included in the program. So I've designed this so that it will walk you step by step through the entire curriculum, and you will get 2 simple trainings per month that will walk you through every step. And these are usually videos or audios, and it's not like it's not an intensive program where you have to keep up with homework or, be working on something. A lot of it is things that have to settle in and really become part of your life. That's why I have found a year-long program makes an excellent time frame for you to really be steeped in this, to get the support that you need, and to go through the materials several times. And that's the way this will flow, and I'll explain that in a minute. So here's the order and how we'll be going through it. And I have, my gosh, I've been doing this for years and years and years, so I know where you need to start and where, the path that you need to take. So we're going to go through this path through these months, and you can see your month 1's about the unfolding child, about the development of your child, discipline and parenting. Then we'll move into simplifying your home, circle time, rhythm is a huge part, as I know, getting your scheduling and your rhythm down. We're going to do an entire month of that. Then moving into your child's job, playing, their purposeful work, and imitating you, toys and materials, Month 5 will be about inner work and your role as a teacher, learning the arts. And then we move in through the Waldorf arts, singing and music, a blowing instrument, drawing, chalkboard painting, handwork, storytelling, puppet shows. Month 8 is festivals and nature tables, and then using nature as your curriculum. Month 9 is preparing to homeschool, all about the legal steps, the myths, role models, meeting with others. And then month 10 into homeschool supplies, support, getting your family on board, and then finishing up with planning, presenting your lessons, homeschooling multiple children, and pop culture and electronics. So just about every single topic you can imagine, we're going to go through, but we're going to go through it in a way that you need it. And also, I'm going to have monthly coaching calls. And these are where you can come as a group and ask questions, get inspiration, just talk through a challenging problem that's going on in your home. And it's the time that you can come and just get some one-to-one time with me and really, and also hear what everyone else is asking. And you will learn just by listening to what other people are asking, because sometimes you don't know, and they may be going through a similar situation. So you'll get a monthly call. There's a community Facebook forum, so you can come ask questions anytime throughout the entire time you're in the program. You don't have to wait or have something happening and say, oh, our call is not for another week, what do I do? You can always come to Facebook and ask the question. The other part of the way I have set this up is that you get some immediate training right away. Because I know you may not want to wait 6 months until, to learn how to do something, or you might not want to wait till month 3 for the rhythm. So I have included some of my key training core programs that are available to you as soon as you enroll, and you can decide what you want to go through first. They're all available. You can pick and choose. I will give you some suggestions, but you can just jump into whatever feels right for you. And then you will also get that dripping content that will come every other week. We're still going to go through those bi-weekly training programs, but if you want to jump right in and go, I need to get my rhythm done, I need to work on this right now, I want to start listening to something. Here are the programs that I have selected to put into the university this year. The Rhythm and Organization Strategy. This is an excellent video training that will walk you through creating your ideal rhythm, and it's an excellent program. How to Homeschool, Navigating Waldorf in Real Life. That's like the 5-step map to creating your homeschool and making it work. Nourishing the Early Years is an amazing program if you've got younger children. It also kind of covers a lot of the real basic formulas for Waldorf. Practical Magic of Early Childhood is a conglomeration of some of the Waldorf experts in the field, talking about play, talking about creative expression, development, rhythm, discipline, and how to work with children who are like 6 and under. It's an excellent program. And then Living the Waldorf Life, how to bring Waldorf into your home, how to set up your home, inner work, play, toys, festivals. So these are the key programs that will be available as soon as you enroll. And then again, we will go through a lot of the same material throughout the year, because this is something that you can't just learn overnight. It has to be digested. You have to work at it a little bit. Waldorf isn't as easy as some of the other homeschooling methods might be. This is a way of life, and if you want to bring it to your child in a magical way and you want to be steeped in it and really live that Waldorf magic, then this is the program for you to really come and have it, really live within you. Okay, I also am adding in School for All Seasons. This is my preschool kindergarten curriculum. It's a 10-month guide. It has so much done for you. Basically, you just open the page and go. All the stories, all the themes, everything, book suggestions and other activities, everything's all done for you. And this is going to be available for those who come into the university with the full pay option. So if you full pay for the entire program, you will get School for All Seasons as a free bonus. But I have some other bonuses too. I like to sweeten the pot. So if you enroll by January 25th, you will get the bonus of the Waldorf Expo recording. So I did, I think it was 6 years of interviews and classes with the Waldorf teachers, experts, and authors in the field. Everyone you can imagine who's written a book, who has curriculum. I have some amazing classes and workshops out there, and I'll give you like the whole shebang. You'll get all of the Waldorf Expo recordings, and that it's probably actually valued at more. I've got it valued at $127. It's probably more like $300, but anyway, you'll get all of those as a bonus if you enroll by January 25th. And if you enroll by January 21st, you will get both bonuses, the Waldorf Expo recordings, and I will include the Waldorf Art Studio, which is a total video bonus training program on how to do the Waldorf arts. So total bonus is $324 that. So I'm only opening the enrollment just till the 25th of January, and then I will not be opening enrollment again until the fall for this. This only opens twice a year. So if you don't jump in now, the next time is going to be sometime next fall. So I really recommend going ahead and getting in. If you're thinking about homeschooling, starting in the fall, this is a great way to get in now and really get a head start on, everything that you'll need going forward. If you have younger children, there's no big rush, but it does take some time to have this, like I said, kind of digest and really become part of your life. So, so we will be closing the doors on January 25th. You can go ahead and enroll today for only $39. I've tried to make this as affordable as possible for everyone, and then just extend it out 11 payments. So it'll be a total of 12 payments of $39. Or if you want to save, get the best value, you can go ahead and full pay for the entire year and have the whole thing done, $397, and you will get all the bonuses plus that School for All Seasons curriculum. So fantastic. So if you're not sure if this is right for you, I have set up some time over the next few days to talk with you. So go ahead and schedule a homeschool checkup session with me. There's the link right there. It's HTTPS. You can just, I'm not going to say the thing. I'll send it out in the replay, and you can look on here. Just go ahead and book a session, and we'll talk through if you're at the right stage, or if you're, depending on the age of your child or where you are. If you have any concerns, go ahead and book a session with me, and we'll go through. I'll find out kind of where you are, like a whole homeschool checkup session, where you are, where you want to go, and if this is the best way to get you there. So remember, the system is already done for you. You don't have to recreate the wheel, and you don't have to do this by yourself. That was one thing that I felt when I was homeschooling, was very isolated, very alone. I wasn't sure if I was doing it right. I spent a lot of time worrying, and I was frustrated, and I'd like to end the frustration, the stress, and the wasted time. So, I'm not anybody extra special. I've just been doing this a lot longer, and I have a system that really works, and it has worked with hundreds of families. And believe me, if I can do it, you can do this too. So again, the waldorfconnection.com/university. And I'd love to have you jump on in and join those who are already in the program and all the new ones who will be coming in this January. I'm going to kind of move it on over to questions now. I've tried to really set you up to where you can't fail. Like, I try to give everything I can give in here to make sure that your success, and you really can, you can do this. And I will guide you through the whole year as you learn. All right, let me go back and see what other kind of questions we've had here. Empress said, I love the needle felting and want to learn more. Painting is intimidating to me as well as the music. Okay, great. And we'll be covering all of that. Painting is really fun. It looks intimidating, but if you know the techniques of it, it's actually quite simple. So those paintings look so beautiful, and they do look intimidating, but they're actually quite fun to do and really not that hard at all if you know what you're doing. What's the name of the seasonal curriculum you mentioned? Oh yeah, somebody else answered. It's School for All Seasons. Great. Alyssa said, it's self-care is so important. You can't pour from an empty cup. Exactly. You can't keep going if your gas tank is empty. You've got to refill it yourself and keep yourself going. So what other questions do you guys have? I know we're gone over here a little bit, but is there anything else I can answer, either about what we talked about today, about the university program? Okay, good. Here's one. Victoria says, how about when you have a 12-year-old girl who has been in a regular school until now, but she wants to start homeschooling, and you have a 2-year-old toddler at the same time? That's a very great question. Yeah, so you've kind of got there's kind of two questions here. One is you've got a 12-year-old who's been to school, and now you want to take her home and homeschool. So that's one thing. So, and especially coming into Waldorf with a 12-year-old. So that's one thing. If that's what you're talking about, let me know, Victoria, if that's your question, or is it more like, what do I do with my 2-year-old when I have a 12-year-old? Now your daughter is old enough that you can probably, assign her some things, do the story, and having a 2-year-old, I'm hoping that they still take naps. You've got to work around your 2-year-old schedule because they're the young one. I would suggest having a special toy box or some kind of a basket that your 2-year-old can only play with during school time that you're doing with your 12-year-old, because your 2-year-old's going to want to see what's happening, but they're not going to be able to do much, right? Because they're really young. So create a special toy box or a basket of toys, or maybe their own art supplies if they scribble a little bit, and say, it's going to only be used during school, and then you've got to try to work your daughter's school in between your 2-year-old schedule when they're napping, or go ahead and have them tell the story. Your child can listen or can run around a little bit, but you also have an old enough child who can do some things and not have to have you sit right there because they're 12. So it's better than having like a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, if you will. So if you want more information, or if you want to ask a little bit more, Victoria, there, because, okay, let's see. It's both. Great idea. What about circle time with these two? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when my kids got to be like in 5th grade, they were kind of looking at me about circle time, that they didn't want to do it anymore. I would maybe do it with your 2-year-old, but your 12-year-old may not want to join in, but she may, because she's never done it. You may want to do something a little different. When my kids got a little older, we would take a walk, and we would kind of do circle time during our walk. And with a 12-year-old, you can do a lot of mental math, working with bean bags and spelling and that kind of thing right in the circle time. And your 2-year-old, you might have to do a separate little thing with him or her because they're just learning to do maybe just a little. Even 2 is kind of almost young to do a circle time, but they can start coming and singing. So you might even hold off and not do an official circle time until your 2-year-old's a little bit older, but you could still bring singing and things into the day with a walk, where you all take a walk, a nature walk or something, or in the backyard. You could bring a couple things in. But you've got to be sensitive to your 12-year-old, that you don't want to make it too babyish, because doing something aimed at a 2-year-old is going to be a lot different than you would do to a 12-year-old. So you may have to break it up. And I know in Waldorf schools, they continue doing circle time, but that's because, they've got a whole class and everyone's doing it. But I know my girls were kind of like circle timed out. And when we got to those ages, which I think is about where your daughter is, I changed it up a little bit, and circle time became, more about playing the recorder. And, I guess it just depends. You'll just have to kind of see if she's interested and she wants to do something. So I hope that helps. All right. Anybody else have a question? I don't want to go too much longer, but I don't want to ignore anybody else's questions here. If anybody has anything. I'm going to go ahead and type in the chat box the link over to the university page if you want to go, and it really gives all the information and everything over there. So if you do have any questions about the university or aren't sure if it's right for you, you can email support@thewaldorfconnection.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you or email back and forth or whatever to let you to see if I think this is the right fit for you. Oh, Victoria says that's exactly what I was thinking. She probably doesn't want to do circle time. Thanks, Fran. Yeah, that's kind of what my thought would be. But you can start moving in it with the younger one, and you can just kind of work with her in a different way. Okay, you guys. Well, I hope this helped. I tried to we got a whole lot done here. And I went through the 6 ingredients and tried to give you tips on everything. It does kind of feel like a lot. It's not hard. It's just knowing what to do with each step. And that's why I think the university is an excellent tool for anybody. It's sort of a catch-all. Come in, learn how to do everything, and just be ready to go. So okay, great, you guys. Thank you so much. And I'm going to sign off. And I hope you enjoyed, and good luck on your journeys. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope some of you will join me over in the university this year. This is going to be our main program that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to put everything I can into it and really give you everything you need so that you can be a success and really nourish your child and create this nourishing homeschool. All right. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you then.